Getting into this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Merab Dvalishvili, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night, Jan versus Dvalishvili, defeated Petr Yan by a unanimous decision. It was a shutout on the scorecards, 50-45s across the board. Mark, let me bring you in first. What was your reaction to Merab winning impressively over the dynamite kickboxer in Petr Yan?
That Merab who fought on Saturday night, and maybe just Merab, period, all the time, is the fighter with the greatest cardio and highest motor I have ever seen in the history of MMA. That was unbelievable. And Petr Yan did well to wrestle defensively. He stuffed a ton of takedowns, 30-something takedowns. If I told you he was going to do that before the fight, you would have been like, well, I guess this is going to go well for Petr Yan. He got up a ton of times. He snuck in elbows on breaks or landed a nice body kick or check hook, and none of it mattered because you can't win a fight when you have to react the entire fight, and that's what Yan had to do. He could never for a second think about working his own game because he was reacting for 99.9% of that fight. Merab is in your face like we have rarely seen in this sport. And he's not any kind of special striker, but he doesn't have to be because he is shooting for so many takedowns and grabbing for so many legs that you're so concerned with it that he can land clean on you. And then as soon as you switch gears finally and you say, all right, shit, I can't keep letting this guy hit me, then he's in on your hips. So for a guy to have a motor like Merab does is almost a cheat code, honestly. It's just so hard to combat. And honestly, the guy who could have maybe done it the best is Jose Aldo. And I hate that stupid fight that happened, and I wish we could see it again, not at elevation. But I digress.
Yes.
Back to this performance. The man had 49 takedown attempts. Landed only 11, but 49 takedown attempts and 147 significant strikes. Who even has the energy to attempt those numbers? So for someone to just run Petr Yan off the tracks the way Merab did in that fight is not something I ever thought I would see, and I have come away very impressed by Merab.
Omar, let's bring you in here. Give us your reaction of the wrestling barrage that Merab threw at Petr Yan.
It makes Colby Covington look very, very lazy.
somehow brings it back to Colby.
I mean, let's be real. As much as I don't like Colby, that dude has one of the best cardios in the game.
Yeah, man, of course.
He's got almost an infinite motor, but he does slow down. I don't really know if Merab slowed down. That man kept a consistent pace for 5 rounds.
25
and
minutes.
It really got to a point where he didn't even give a shit about the takedowns. It didn't really have anything to do with the takedowns. It had to do with Petr Yan worrying about the takedowns. So Merab would grab his leg, just touch it real quick, mess with him. Hey, here I go. Oh, no, uppercut. Oh, no, right hand. And that was pretty much the course of the fight. It got to the point where by the end of the fight, Petr Yan was like a pirate. He was just one eye, just all kinds of fucked up. I've never seen anything like that in my life. We've seen Usman, we've seen GSP, we've seen a lot of guys that rely on the takedown to find a path to victory. Merab, it just seemed like Merab was fucking with him for 5 rounds. Just outpaced him and just was like, either I'm going for a takedown or I'm going to punch you in the face. And you're not going to have the energy or the speed to stop both. You can stop one, but I'm going to pop you with the other, or I'm going to take you down. It was a wild performance, man. And I didn't really think that. I figured Yan would find some way, right? Those takedowns weren't the cleanest, right? There are opportunities there to throw a knee or an uppercut or something like that, but he was overwhelmed, and you could see it, man. I don't think Petr Yan has ever been put in that kind of position in his life. I'm sure he trains very hard, but I don't think anybody's ever done that to him.
Oh, I'm sure he trains crazy hard.
Yeah.
It's just motor. I heard the basketball player J.J. Redick say this once. He was like, "You can't teach motor Like it's kind of like a genetic thing almost, according to him. I believe
But it's also being exposed to different looks. It's guys are less panicky when they've seen something before, when they've thought about, because a lot of times you think about how you would counter it, what you would do, and whatever else, and a lot of times you train those things, but you can't, like you said, you can't train motor, you can't replicate motor.
You train cardio, but there's motor. Like a motor is just something different. It's like that gear. It's almost like a mindset more than it is actual like cardiovascular 100%. Health.
And there's no resets for Merab. Like Jan loves to analyze in there, to analyze space and analyze how he wants to re-engage and step back in and make you move. When there is no breather reset time, you kind of lose the ability to do that.
If you're a striker, you hate that fight. I mean, that fight is your fucking nightmare. That's the shit that keeps you up at night.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it also, to me, is somewhat reminiscent of, or it made me think of Cain Velasquez and JDS, their second and third fights of what JDS, or rather what Cain did to JDS. Like, it was absolutely relentless to the point where it was kind of hard to watch.
I will say, by the end of the fifth round, Cain Velasquez looked like he was done. Like, I did my job. I'm done. Merab finished this fight and was like, "We're done."
Yeah.
I thought we were at round one. I thought we could do another 5.
He looked like he could have kept going.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like.
Like, I'm gonna go
and
run.
It was just like, it was almost like he just won by overwhelmingness. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys felt different. I really didn't think Jan looked all that bad.
I'm with you.
It was almost just like, he never got a chance to try. Like, he just
didn't let him in.
Like, you wanted to be like, Merab, let Jan have a turn, and it just
He looked confused. He looked confused, and I get it. I was confused watching. I can only imagine what that must have been like in front of you, with a dude shooting on your leg, getting popped in the face. You know what I mean? Still trying to defend the takedown, and then getting popped in the face again. That shit's got to be annoying, let alone eventually painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, what an apt nickname the Machine has turned out to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where these guys go from here. Let's talk about bantamweight. Let's start with the winner, Mark. Give me a sense of where you would go next with Merab. Were you the UFC matchmaker?
I mean, it's very tricky, as we know. Obviously, Merab does not want to fight his boy, Aljo, which I respect. Dana White has already come out and tried to say that that might be the wrong choice, and you know what can happen when you turn down a title fight and yada, yada.
Real quick, not to interrupt, but I was listening to Ariel Helwani's show today. So apparently this is now the second time that he's had this conversation with Merab about fighting Aljo. And they got to a point where they didn't want to give Merab any top 5 contender fight, because if he wins, anybody, Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, he wasn't going to fight Aljo. So what was the point? And so it turns out Peter Yan was the one who pushed for this fight. That's the only reason that this fight actually came together. Wow. And now they are stuck in a situation where now you got the number 1 guy essentially and the champion not wanting to fight each other.
See, I don't think it's so big of an issue, because they have publicly talked about how Aljo plans to take 2 more fights and then go up to featherweight. So unless he's going to rescind that plan, obviously at that point it's an issue. But even if first of all, if he loses to Henry, then everything is open right away. If he beats Henry and then loses the next fight, it's open. Or even if you got to wait 2 more Aljo fights, that means Merab only has to fight 1 more in the meantime. So we could certainly find a contender for him to fight. Like, for example, this is what I was just going to say. First off, I would be stunned if the UFC let him fight Sean O'Malley. I don't think there's a chance in hell that the UFC books that fight. Yeah. Because I think they want Sean O'Malley in a title fight. And it sounds like he, prior to this, had been told he was going to get the winner of Henry and Aljo. I don't know if that still stands, but either way, I don't think they ever put him across the cage from Merab. At least not until he's champ. But what that leaves, as much as I hate it, is that you still have Chito Vera over there. And if he ends up beating Corey Sandhagen, He's not going to be able to fight for the title because you already told Sean O'Malley that he's getting the next one. So there is a guy for Merab to fight. Like, if Aljo wins and he's going to fight O'Malley, Merab can fight Cheeto. It works out perfectly fine. So I don't really know why Dana's being so dramatic about it. It sucks for Cheeto. Like, that would be a long, long road to the top to have Merab added to the end of it. If it's Corey that wins that fight and has to fight Merab, it would at least feel a little more fair. But, you know, I think there's options. I even think that if this shakes out weird in some way and you can't make Merab against the winner of that fight, I think if Ricky Simone beats Song Yadong, you could fucking run that fight back and settle that. Because that's been years of kind of unsettledness since their first fight. And I even think that could be a decent filler.
It was the last time he lost was to Ricky Simone.
Yeah.
His first 2 fights, this is Merab. He lost his first 2 fights in the UFC, and he's won every fight since.
Who was the first one? I can't even think.
Frankie Sands.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Sands.
I remember looking at
Split
that
decision
last
loss to Frankie Sands.
I
And then
think,
Ricky Simone got a guillotine on Merab. And he has been
that was in
No,
Atlantic
he's-
City when me and Omar were there.
He didn't win by guillotine though. That went to decision.
it says technical submission, so he choked him out.
Yeah.
What?
It was
Fight of the night.
Omar, we were there. It was on the Atlantic City card. It was
No,
Merab was winning the whole fight, and then Ricky Simone got him in a guillotine late.
No,
He
I remember.
never tapped. It looked like Merab made the bell,
It did,
Right.
yes.
and then as soon as he came off, there was like a 1 Mississippi where he behaved as if he was out, and then he kind of jumped right up.
Right.
And everyone was like, wait, what just happened? Was he out or was he just like laying there? And they ruled that he was out.
Yeah.
I don't remember them ruling it as him out. I remember all of that. I don't remember them ruling it as he was out. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's
The official
that
time.
Sucks.
I'm looking at it right here. The
That's
official
why
time.
I'm saying they've kind of debated the true winner of that fight ever since. Like, they've talked about it. So
I think that's the right call.
Well, Merab
Well,
said he
I
doesn't
think-
want to.
I
He
think
doesn't
he
want to
said
fight
he
Ricky
wasn't out.
Simone. He doesn't want to fight Ricky Simone. He said he already beat Ricky Simone.
So that's what I'm saying. It's
and then
a
he won't fight him.
long-standing debate. He
said,
he
"I
won't
just-
fight him? Wow.
I just beat Jose Aldo. I beat Peter Yan. Why do I need? Why Ricky
That's so
Simone?
silly. The bell rings and you're not able to continue because you were in a choke.
Well, he says he wasn't out. That's what I'm
I-
saying. He
Right,
has
but
always
he
said he
was.
was not out.
Yeah, I've watched it back a couple times, and I didn't think he was out. I could see why. It just looked like a moment where he was like, "Fuck, I'm glad this is over."
It's
Not,
always
I'm
been
out.
tough. It's a weird one. It could go either way.
I did
Like,
not
we'll
know they
never
ruled
know,
it
I
like
feel.
that. That sucks.
So Merab claims that he thinks he held on enough and he didn't fully go out. That he
I
should
think
be.
he says that he was fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to say that.
Like, I think he contends that he was not close to going out.
Okay.
That he just
Oh, I
bell
mean, well,
rang
he's
and
full
he
of
was
shit
kinda
there. He looked like a grape when he got up.
A grape. Did you say
Dude,
a
he
grape?
was, his head was turning purple.
Oh, I see. Listen, let's move on here. And let's talk about Petr Yan. A guy who is I'm a high on Petr Yan, man. And I still am. I'm not off the train yet. But my man has lost, 4 of his last 5 in the UFC?
well, one was by DQ, but
One was
3
by
losses
DQ.
that
That
are
was the
real,
first
yeah.
thing that kind of set this whole thing in motion here for him. He's not a happy man lately. Omar, let me start with you. If he doesn't retire, because after the last loss, he like kind of threatened retirement. He kind of needed some time to clear his head.
He sent a tweet already or an Instagram post, I forget, that kind of alluded to that he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He shouldn't. If you were the matchmaker, Omar, what would you want to do with Jan next?
With Petr Yan. Right at the very top of the division. Always at the very top of the division, but like, what can you do at this point? You kind of got to give him somebody else, and he hasn't fought everybody in the division at this point. He's fought in a lot of guys. A lot of his, he came off of the Uriah Faber win. He's got a lot of other sort of mid-esque people on his early UFC career. But he's got the Jimmy Rivera, the Dotsons, the Aldo, and he kind of fucked Aldo up a little bit. So there is that. But where does he go right now? So I don't know how many of these guys have things lined up because it seems like everybody has something lined up in this division right now. But it might be worth it to see what perhaps the loser of the Marlon Vera Corey Sandhagen fight. That would probably be my guess. But I think Corey Sandhagen already fought him, so you would kind of hope that it would be Chito Vera. But does Chito Vera really need to fight him if he wins? Or Chito Vera would need to lose
Certainly not.
in order for that to work. Yeah.
I'll throw two ideas at you. And I kind of love both. Keep in mind, the dude has lost 3 in a row. So
Yeah.
I'm taking a slight step back from that top batch. I think him and Dominic Cruz would be awesome.
Oh.
And I could see Cruz take it.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying take the fight. I'm saying I'm not saying win the fight. I'm saying I could see Cruz accept the fight.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, you were so offended. Or he could be the dude who welcomes Davison Figueiredo.
Oh, I love that.
fine
Oh, I
with that
love that
one.
so much.
I like that one better.
That's my preference. I think that one
Yeah.
is sexy. That's why I say
I like that one better. That's
yeah,
a good one.
we've always kind
I didn't
of
even think about
tossed
that.
around names for Figueiredo, and I feel like we never hit on one where we were all like, ooh, and I feel like Jan is in that spot right now where it makes a lot of sense.
Damn, but what do you do if they both lose? Or if they both lose? If either one of them loses? I mean, that's bad for either one of them at that point because Davidson's kind of coming off of those championship losses. He didn't look great in his last 2. I don't know.
Hey, man.
Hey,
It's swim with the sharks.
swim with the sharks, baby.
Goddamn. All right, well, if he dies, he dies. All right, cool.
Dude, I think that
Speaking of if he dies, we transition into Drago.
Poor
yeah,
Drago.
if it's true, Jesus. Yeah, let's move this this thing down the line here. Congrats to Merab, man. Great win, biggest win of his career, maybe the best he's looked ever.
Yeah.
He's like, oh God, he's like Clay Guida on steroids. Is that
Dude,
insulting?
Clay Guida. Clay
He's
Guida
like-
might not even have that cardio. I just think he's just on autopilot. He just goes.
Okay.